about the true story of this conversation, and we have other witnesses who would not confirm the story which appears in Times today.
President Yeltsin has suggested that your President Tudjman and President Milosevic of Serbia should go to Moscow to try and find a political settlement out of this problem. Is Japan going to go?
Well, probably not at this moment. We believe that we need a new international conference which would put the whole problem of Eastern Slavonia, Bosnia, the human rights issue in the region in one package and cut a peace deal for the whole region. However, we don't believe that this very moment Russia should lead, because they are leading at this very moment in the Security Council in attacking Croatia. But however, down the road we need Russian cooperation and mediation to stabilize the situation, and we certainly would cooperate with the international community, Russia included, to stabilize the situation. There is a tremendous geopolitical shift which has happened after our action in the region called Krajina, and we believe that the deal in Bosnia and peace in Croatia is just around the corner.
Mario Nebula in the United Nations in New York, thank you very much.
You're most welcome.
After the break, a full news summary and weather forecast, plus the tragedy of youth suicide. Why does he need a person ever to break?
Croatia says the fight for Krajina is over, but the human tragedy is unfolding by the hour. 150,000 Serb refugees are fleeing. Britain says this too amounts to ethnic cleansing. Are school reports going soft? Government inspectors accuse teachers of leading out the truth to first. Croatia says its 4-day onslaught against the Serb rebels in Krajina is over, but the United Nations reports that isolated clashes are still going on. And by the hour, the desperate tide of refugees grows more swollen. As the West tries to unravel the implications of the new situation, America called it a new basis for peace. The Britain's Defense Secretary, Michael Portillo, accused Croatia of ethnic cleansing, while Croatia actually broke off contact with the European Union's chief negotiator, angered by his suggestion that he was guilty of war crimes. Earlier, the UN did manage to arrange a ceasefire of sorts, under which the Serbs began giving up their heavy weapons at several towns designated as handover sites. But the ceasefire soon collapsed, and fighting was reported again in Karlovac, close to one of the sites. Roads out of Krajina across to Bosnia are blocked with refugees trying to get to the Bosnian Serb town of Banja Luka, where up to 50,000 refugees are already massed. We have 3 reports. First, Nicholas Witchell, who was one of the first Western journalists to enter Knin, the fallen Serb stronghold in Krajina.
They arrived at the UN gates on Friday night, driven from their homes by the Croat bombardment and desperate for sanctuary. Many were old people, others were sick, unwilling or unable to join the tens of thousands chosen to flee from the town which has been a Serb heartland for generations. Many had lost not just homes, but families.
Thousands of refugees are still trying to get out of Krajina. Many thousands more have already travelled through the Serb-held area of Bosnia to Serbia proper. Mile upon mile of cars, lorries and vans are stacked along the roads leading to the main crossing points. And UN aid officials say some of the refugees have been shelled as they fled. John Devitt now reports from Serbia on the growing refugee crisis.
The tide of refugees moves eastward. These people have made it to Serbian-controlled Bosnia. The speed of their escape is clear to see. Their few belongings thrown onto whatever form of transport they had to hand, as the Croatian advance drove them from their homes. There's evidence that some international aid, at least, is getting through. A United Nations convoy carrying tons of food was sent into Bosnia from Serbia, the first of several planned this week. The Red Cross has established medical points on the long road towards the Serbian border. For thousands, their ultimate destination is Serbia itself. There's been a steady stream on the main road leading to Belgrade, and it's estimated about 800 people an hour are crossing into the country. Some vehicles showing clear signs of the war they've left behind. Serbia has seen refugees before. The UN estimate there are some 200,000 here from previous conflicts, but there's never been such a concentration in such a short time. About 1,000 have found a temporary home in this sports stadium at Sremska Mitrovica, about 80 kilometers from Belgrade. This family from Krajina had an hour to pack their possessions. They were relatively well off. Now they've left everything behind. The father said he spent all his life living happily with his Croat neighbors. Now he wanted to kill himself. This woman said history was repeating itself, and the international community was turning a blind eye. In the past, an estimated 95% of refugees arriving here in Serbia found homes with Belgrade. These made a camp in the grounds of an international aid agency.
Well, right now we know that some, over the last 3 days, it's estimated some 15,000 have crossed the border. We figure there's anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000 that are massed along the border, but that's very difficult to estimate. That's very, very gross estimates. As we've said, it's anywhere from 150 to 200 to 250,000 people still on the move.
The humanitarian problem puts pressure on the Serbian government, but they insist at this stage they've ruled out a military option, although it's clear that won't continue if Croatia takes any more territory. These tanks heading away from Belgrade towards the border region with Croatia were described as part of a routine deployment. John David, BBC News, Serbia.
The Russian President Boris Yeltsin has asked President Milosevic of Serbia and President Tudjman of Croatia to Moscow for peace talks. Speculation has been growing that Mr. Milosevic and Dr. Tudjman have struck some sort of deal to carve up the territories of former Yugoslavia to satisfy their political ambitions. Our diplomatic correspondent Brian Hanrahan reports.
The Serb exodus from Croatia is causing concern to the Bosnian government. Also people.
Croatians celebrate victory in Krajina, but is their triumph a prelude to peace or to a wider war? Good evening. All over, bar the misery of the Serb refugees. Tonight, the Croats announced that their reconquest of Krajina was complete, and they were ending their military blitz on the region. But so-called mopping up operations continue, and tens of thousands of refugees are fleeing, leaving the towns where they've lived for centuries empty. Newsnight's Mark Urban was one of the first TV journalists to reach the former Krajina capital of Krajina.
This town was taken on Saturday. It wasn't until today that the final remnants of the Krajina Serb forces agreed to lay down their arms, bringing to an end a 4-year rebellion against Croatian rule.
And are the hordes of Serb refugees now pouring out of Krajina a sign that the Krajinian Serbs were abandoned to their fate by a deal struck between the Croatian and Serbian presidents? A top official from the Croatian Foreign Ministry debates with Paddy Ashdown, who may have evidence of an understanding. Plus, here in London, a former UN spokesman and the Yugoslav chargé d'affaires. Also tonight, place your bets, please, on the chances of reforming Britain's restrictive rules on gaming. We'll be discussing the risks and the possible prices with a casino director and a consultant psychologist. The UN-brokered ceasefire collapsed today after the Croats accused the Krajinian Serbs of trying to trick them. Croatia also reported Bosnian Serbs had launched airstrikes on a number of Croatian towns, but tonight the UN said such reports could not be confirmed. And tonight some of the first pictures of a refugee convoy which was shelled on a road in northern Bosnia. It happened as up to 200,000 Serb refugees choked the roads to Bosnia or Serbia proper in the wake of Croatia's recapture of Krajina. Operation Storm, as Croatia called it, has once again transformed the map. Serb-controlled Krajina was attacked on Friday. By this morning, 80% of the region was back in Croatian government control, and Krajinian Serb refugees were fleeing to Banja Luka in Serb-held Bosnia. Human rights Mark Urban has been to Krajina, the former citadel of the Krajinian Serbs.